To this morning's edition of the NBC Markets Morning Call, 3rd of October 2025. Stocks hit fresh record highs last night as the US government and Congress hit what can only be described as a new record low. Essentially here, what we've really boils it down quite nicely is that, the stock market is clearly not the economy. And we'll probably discuss that in a little bit deeper later in the podcast here. As I said yesterday morning, I sort of expected that move in the Aussie. The SPI wasn't up anywhere near enough in that futures market. Obviously managed to pull 1.1% gain, and then gaining on the week as well. Really led. I mean, the banks were involved, but really led by CSL, a bunch of the healthcare names coming out of the lows. Copper rallied as well, as did gold. So you did see BHP and Rio doing a bit of heavy lifting there as well. And, it was a bit of a team effort rather than, just one particular sector. So we did see a bit of heat come out of those defence stocks yesterday, but realistically, they're pretty much where they were 3 days ago. So there's a lot of FOMO going on out there at the moment in terms of those defence stocks. My advice would be, be cautious, because these things are at pretty big market caps, and you don't want to be chasing silly levels. Particularly, the disparity between, for instance, Electro-Optic Systems, EOS, and Drone Shield at the moment. EOS is winning more dollar value in contracts than Drone Shield, yet it's less than half the market cap. And apparently they've got better technology. I'm not a space lasers and drone disruptor expert, but from bits and pieces that I read, it could have broader applications, and there is a minor risk with drone. A lot of people have said about Drone Shield as well is that it only disrupts a certain signal, so it's not as broad use case as everyone thinks. But again, haven't dug into it anywhere near enough, and I'm not a scientist, so I'm not going to make a comment on that. Overall, it's just things that I've read in terms of, obviously there's a positive investment case for those guys, but that's the counterpoint to it. Look, broadly, we've had a bit of a rally in the States. So it really is a case of, that, the stock market just isn't the economy, basically. So, and I'll get onto that in a minute. Nvidia and Apple did the heavy lifting. Well, Meta and Amazon did the heavy lifting last night. No particular reasons, to be brutally honest. Tesla had better vehicle delivery results, but they found some other excuse as to why they wanted to sell it last night. It is close to the record highs there, and there is supposedly an extraordinarily large short position in that stock at the moment that may be being protected. Although, because I've been doing a fair bit of research into Tesla lately, I'm finding that my socials feeds and things are absolutely flooded with Tesla news. So I'm not entirely sure and positive Tesla news. So not entirely sure what the deal is there. But we'll just go on to here. So this is kind of why we're not seeing a major move in the US market, I wouldn't imagine, because foreign revenue, and so US economy it's going to cost it. Well, the last one cost like 11 billion, and essentially we've got you've got the major companies like Apple, Microsoft, Google. They're all 50% or above. Tesla's 55 as well. These guys aren't necessarily. They're not depending on the US economy for their revenue, and they really are. You can see in the indexes here, the S&P 500. It's 59% of sales, 41% of revenue, 69% of sales. On the equal weight, it's 69%. So, that chart's about a year old. It just looked a little bit nicer. So obviously, less graphic design work doing here. So I just went in and got some, did some research this morning. So they're, that kind of give you an indication why, look, the stock market isn't necessarily the, isn't the economy. And while we've got flashing overvalued at the moment with this massive concentration of, 5 to 10 stocks essentially being the index. They're all financially healthy. They are all making massive inroads in whatever fields they're in. They've got great margins. So realistically, you're more so just trading those top 10 stocks rather than a broader index, unless you're looking at the Russell. And I'm sure equal weight would not be performing anywhere near as well as what the indexes are with the weightings. So that's kind of why we still sort of get these record highs on the surface, but the rest of the market not necessarily. I mean, as you can see here, there's weakness through there. Weakness in the healthcare sector would have been overnight. Would have been a bit of a cooling. I mean, it was about a 6% bounce in the ETF in the last 2 days, so that's probably why that's just pulled back a little bit. Pfizer has done everyone a massive favour there by going to the White House and kissing the ring and making a little bit of compromise, because I think Trump's going to turn the ship around now on the big pharma stuff, and all they had to do was get down on bended knee, kiss the ring, and give some concessions on some drugs that are covered by Medicaid, and save the government some money, and then it's back to business as usual. So yeah, calendar for next week, no big names there. The following week, we're going to start to see, except for BlackRock on Friday, we're going to start to see the banks, and then we'll kick off, made the normal. It kicks off the earnings season, so you'll get all the financials, and then probably mid to late in the month we're going to get the Mag 7. We're going to get all the big companies, excluding Nvidia, which is further down the line. So it's going to get a little bit busy again. We don't tend to have major moves over earnings. It's something that my colleague Jonathan Takadena pointed out. I sort of went back and had a look, and it's pretty bang on. So it tends to, everyone's always waiting for that earnings to come through. I really hope they don't go to 6 monthly earnings. But US government's shut, so we are unlikely to get payrolls this Friday or tonight. We're unlikely to get any US economic numbers. We got a Labor Day holiday in Australia here on Monday. And we've got a bunch of, so ECB, Bank of England, Bank of Japan, Fed Chair Powell, RBA Governor, all speaking. New Zealand has, I think, their central bank meeting. The press will talk loads about it. It absolutely means nothing. And just usually the press is it's just for lack of anything better to talk about, basically. I mean, a country... Yeah, the country geographically is closer, but couldn't be any more different in terms of tax law, how they make their money, and what they export, etc. So, don't listen to any pundits saying that it has any influence on Australian interest rates or economic policy. Gold and silver took a little bit of a breather last night. Copper's still looking really solid, actually. It's nearly back at $5 now. We did have another mine in South America essentially go offline. So it is a little bit, I think that supply gap is starting to broaden quite significantly, particularly with Freeport off the table for 18 months. So I think you'll start to see, generally the commodities come up. Poor old crude. I mean, there's not much to talk about there. It's just not really going up. Iron ore fairly flat, and then we got coal, lithium up a little, uranium still bouncing around. Bitcoin's had a pretty good week overall, and I would expect it to, probably continue in terms of that store of value. It's finally sort of caught up to gold a little bit. I think there was a few equities side or traditional investors wondering why Bitcoin wasn't mirroring gold the other day, which was a source of a lot of frustration on social media. So we're overall. I would expect the we might see a little bit of wait and see attitude next week, and as we see, Trump and the Democrats and the Republicans, clean up their own mess, blame each other, and do whatever. So, rather horrible that the Congress still gets paid, soldiers and government workers don't. I think the quickest way to solve it would just be cut off Congress as well. And, they've all managed to observe a Jewish holiday and all go home, etc., etc., etc. While millions of people don't get paid. I mean, and it's just disgraceful. I cannot see how the world's largest economy is operating with this dysfunctional Congress. But it is what it is. As I mentioned yesterday, Spain's government shut down for 8 months and things got better. So maybe we're just better off without. So yeah, and we've got the webinar coming up on Tuesday. There is only about 20 spots left, so make sure you get there and register. But that's for the Security Super Cycle one, AI, automation and robotics in November. PICs are still going pretty well. I mean, obviously we're at record highs, so not particularly hard, but we are outperforming, what the S&P's done by a good sort of 28% or more. Haven't updated those numbers, but if anything, it's probably higher than lower. You will get some stock tips there, ASX stock tips, very much focused probably on global stock tips, and as well, and the general thematic and why. So it's usually around 45 minutes to an hour, and there is a space for you to have Q&A and things like that as well. So it's all set up very nicely. And so, make sure you go and register. You can find it in our socials pretty easily. So, if you're interested, we got the weekly podcast, Bulls versus Bears, this afternoon will be released. Myself and I think it'll be Kai today. I think Jonathan's away. So, and in the weekend edition, which is a pretty quick way to catch up on markets, on the week without having to, dig through the masses of information. So I hope everyone has a great weekend. I hope everyone and a good day. And I think, the SPY was largely unchanged. I think we'll probably see the defensive sectors do relatively well, but I don't expect too much out of today overall. There may be a little bit of a risk off sentiment towards the end of the day but I think with Trump in power and US Congress doing what they're doing, and I think realistically, this is just, we're in information overload at the moment. Every news story is white noise, whether it be a bombing, a tariff, a shutdown. It's like, the market's almost become, sociopathic, to be brutally honest. So, so I don't expect too much to happen today. Have a great day again, and we'll speak again Monday.